Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we are playing a donation deck from a YouTube channel member who's a friend of the channel, and we're playing a Phyrexian Dreadnought Painter's Servant combo deck. That's quite a mouthful, let's get into it. So, we have what you'd imagine for a Phyrexian Dreadnought deck, right? So we've got these Torpor Orbs to help get our Dreadnought into play, we've got these Mycosynth Gardens to get a Dreadnought into play that way. We've got the Urza Saga to find us the Dreadnought. We've also got these Hushbringers, another way of getting the Dreadnought in. So we've got a lot of ways to say we have a Dreadnought, right? But because we're running this Urza Saga shell for it, we may as well have a couple of Grindstones, right? And if we've got a couple of Grindstones, we may as well have a bunch of Painted Servants as well. And the glue that I always like to have in these decks, so this is the list I've been sent, also has that same glue in Oswald Fiddlebender. So this can find us other halves of our combo, it can find us our Torpor Orb to get our Phyrexian Dreadnoughts going, it can find us Phyrexian Dreadnoughts too, as well as a few nice silver bullets in the form of things like Soul Guide Lantern and Shadowspear, Haywire Mite, Skrelv, Portable Hole, and we do have a couple of Ethersworn Canonists as well we can get to shut down some Storm and Elf decks a bit. So we got a lot of options here, right? But what's really interesting to me is that we are playing 2 Savannah and 2 Razorverge Thicket alongside our Fast Mana and Lotus Petals and Mox Opals. These are not only doing the activate ability of Haywire Mite, but they are sometimes casting us once upon a time. Now, we don't necessarily need green mana to play this game, right? Once upon a time, the first one's usually free because it's in your opening hand, and then you don't necessarily need to cast them unless you've got nothing else going on a lot of the time. And we can filter mana to a Mycosynth Gardens if we need to, and obviously Saga can find some of our fast mana that can then get us the colours we need. So it's relatively straightforward, but we have a lot of options along the way. We are going to be having a pretty miserable time versus the old Meltdowns, that's for sure. Because we've got 4 Ancient Dens in here, we've got Mox Opals, we've got all these 1-drops, our Dreadnoughts and stuff like that. But that's kind of the price you pay sometimes, right? Great risk, great reward. So last time I think I played one of these Dreadnoughts decks, I was a little bit cagey on when to do certain things. I kept trying to get full value out of the Urza Saga, but really, having watched other people play this deck, it seems that the correct play most of the time is to just use this as a tutor for your Dreadnoughts and stuff, and then make sure you can deploy your Torpor Orb to get your Dreadnought online off of your Saga, rather than making a construct on that turn. So that's what we're going to keep in mind playing it this time. I don't think there's too much more to go over in the main deck here, really. It's going to be making some big guys or grinding them out. Sideboard wise, we've got basically the things you'd expect. We got a bit of removal in some plows. We've got some March of the Body Lights, which are flexible, so they can hit things like Chalice or Trinisphere or whatever. So we've got a lot of options we can do with the March of the Body Light. We've got some Graveyard Hate in the form of Surgical Extraction to go alongside our Soul Guide Lantern. I think it's a little bit light on Graveyard Hate for my liking, this deck, but we'll see how it goes. We have 1 Pithing Needle that there just wasn't room for in the main, so we've got it in the board to go and find with Saga or Oswald, so it's only a one-off, but it's going to come up more often. Haywire Mite is kind of a lot like a March of Otherworldly Light in the fact that it's going to be blowing up certain things that could be problems for us. And we've got 2 Ethersworn Canonists. If we need to play against any of these Storm decks, we've got these. These could be Deafening Silencers maybe, but this is what we've gone for. And for a deck that's just going to be removing our Dreadnoughts, we've got some Blacksmith skills. If you're unfamiliar with this one, this is quite a good one. Target permanent gains Hexproof and Indestructible until end of turn. If it's an artifact creature, it gets +2/+2 end of turn. So we've got a big trampling artifact creature. So given that Hexproof and +2/+2 and Indestructible, that's quite a lot of good tech. So we can use this to save a Dreadnought in the face of a Meltdown. It's not a great plan, because Meltdown's going to take away a bunch of our other permanents too, but we just need to hang on for one turn sometimes and get the bash in with a Dreadnought. So that's the deck. I don't think there's too much more to explain with this one. But before we jump in, I have to do a plug for the channel, because of course I do. Like, comment, subscribe. These things don't cost you anything. If you want to do a donation deck, you can contact me through the Discord link below. You can join my Patreon, send me a couple of quid a month, just say thank you. But there will be some content going up there for a higher tier soon when I finish a deck primer for Green-Black Turbo decks. Okay, I think that's plenty of plugging. Let's play some Phyrexian Dreadnought. So we've opened up a Painter's Servant hand here, right? So you can play the Urza Saga on 1, Painter on 2, kill them on 3. If that doesn't work, we can pivot into some other stuff. So I think we're going to keep this one and give it a go. We even have the Saga Lantern if there's something like Sneak and Show. Although we might not get enough time to beat them if they are Sneak and Show. But let's see. I will keep this. Our opponent has mulligan to 6, mulligan to 5. Okay, this is more combo territory usually when people mulligan that low. Because a lot of decks, they just need like lands and spells that do stuff, right? Whereas combo decks, they need more specific parts. They're more likely to mulligan, especially with the current mulligan rule where you get to see a fresh 7 and pick the best from it. So it really incentivizes combo decks to mulligan. If this is Reanimator, we have the Saga Lantern, which I'm definitely deploying on turn 1 here. There's some other decks that this can interact with. So like Oops or Spells will struggle to beat the Saga Lantern game 1, like this. In fact, I don't think they can beat it at all. And we've got a few other decks like Cephalid Breakfast that we can certainly slow down. They can win around a Saga Lantern if they just go and get themselves a Thassa's Oracle, but we've got a decent amount of combo decks here covered. And we've got a fast kill, which is what you need. Chalice of the Void for 0. Right? That doesn't impact us. Okay, so our opponent is on 8 to cast. And we have the Saga Lantern. Let's play this out. Cast a Painter's Servant. We will name Black, I guess. I'll wait till our opponent targets something with the Emery, and then we'll exile it. Say no to Emerys. Now we can get that sweet one down me through with our Painter's Servant. Now they're tapped out. We'll attack anyway. Let's see, they've got 3 cards in hand. Thought cast. So we're representing the kill next turn, and they should know that. Like, they've got to make sure that we have a land, but we should be A-OK here. Just float some mana off this. Get ourselves a Grindstone. Plant the Gardens. Let's grind them. They haven't got any free interaction, I think, that I can think of here. Are they going to let us see their deck, or are they going to concede? They're conceding so we didn't get to see their deck. But we did see size. We only saw the 1, though. But usually, Sai and Chalice mean they're on the Classic 8 cast and not the Paint cast builds. So, now we have to work out what we want to do here. Solar Extraction definitely has some text here. And I do like the Might Strike the Worldly Lights. It can blow up a whole bunch of stuff, including enemy Sagas. Haywire Mite. This is going to be useful in this matchup. Do we want Pithing Needles and Surgical Extractions? These are an option that we have available to us if we want to try and mess with their graveyard when they're doing Emery stuff. I don't think we want the Surgicals, though. The Pithing Needle, maybe. But we definitely want these 4. The Plows are also an interesting option here. They do have some creatures I wouldn't mind getting dead. But let's see if we can find 7 slots to fit these in as a problem. Skrelv is going to be bad in this matchup, because they're not going to target that many things, and if they do, they might be targeting it with a colourless thing anyway. The Shadowspear might help us race, so I don't mind that. Hushbringer is going to be pretty good in this matchup, in all honesty. If we're bringing in these sorts of things, maybe we're supposed to be getting rid of some Once Upon a Times. That only leaves us 1 card shy. Maybe it's an Oswald. No, what am I talking about? These Ethersworn Canonists need to go. Sorry. Which means we can get one of these back in, or we can jam in something like a Blacksmith Skill or a Pithing Needle. I think I wouldn't mind having a Pithing Needle in here. Yeah, let's try it like this. Now we're boarding in a lot of things we want to find that aren't things that can be found off of... Ooh, this is an interesting one. I would like some more mana, though. That's the problem. We've got 20 lands and 7 pieces of fast mana. So that's 26 draws. That's close to a 50% chance. So we could try and take 2 draws. I think we do have to mulligan this one, though. We can't play this game on this little resources. Alright, let's try and go a bit lower. Oh, that's pretty gross. Let's mulligan again. Right, this is the best one we've had so far. We want to keep the Saga. Saga's good. We want to keep the Haywire Mite. And keep the Orb. Probably throwing back a Razorverge Thicket. And I think it has to be the Mycosynth Gardens here, because we want to be able to reliably cast his Swords to Plowshares. Does mean we're less likely to have multiple guys. But I think this is acceptable. We might just draw another green-white source. And we should have kept the Gardens, but I think this is fine. Ether Spellbomb. Okay, so that's completely shut down our Dreadnought line. We can Haywire Mite our way into this game a little bit, though. Thought Monitor. Sure. So our opponent has accelerated this game pretty quickly, I would say. What are we doing with our turn? Is this a turn we just jam it as a Saga? Or we just hold up this Savannah? I think it's probably just the Savannah, isn't it? So we can try and plow something. Like if they play an Emery or a Sai, we can nail that straight away. But yeah, our opponent is quite far ahead here. There's a Saga. Okay, this is something we can nail with a Haywire Mite next turn. Looks like that's our opponent's main win condition there, so... Alright. Would I rather Pithing Needle the Saga when I have my own? I don't think so. I think we're going to play this Haywire Mite. If this doesn't resolve, we can always play the Pithing Needle on the Saga. Right, we're doing these things, but the problem here is we are behind already. We're already getting pecked away for a little bit. And our opponent has got a redraw there. They've also got a spell bomb to check the first creature we do. So it's going to be a little bit difficult for us to find our way into the game. If we can leverage some as a Saga tokens, maybe we can force the spell bomb out and then get them with a Dreadnought. And we're kind of living in fear of Hurkyl's Recall whenever we get to do our thing later on. Because they're going to have that in their deck. It's going to be pretty good against all of our ways of winning the game. Alright, so we managed to get rid of their Saga. They've drawn off their Bauble. They've still got Metalcraft, obviously. Third mana source, it's going to be like a Sai. Post-combat Sai, maybe. Can't really explain why they got a bunch of cards in hand. A Soul Guide Lantern. Then we're going to deploy this Torpor Orb. This stops things like Cannoneer, Emery, stuff like that. And further Thought Monitors from doing things. Sure, they're just going to draw a card. Our opponent's draw seems like they had this thing where they could do the Thought Monitor super early, but then it didn't really find them any good juicy stuff apart from the Saga that we dealt with. So maybe we can cling on this one. Take a bash for 2 here. If we get rid of their Thought Monitor, we take them off Metalcraft. My opponent's just got a bunch of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they're holding up Hardcast Force of Will here. Alright, so let's activate this for 1. We're going to get ourselves a Phyrexian Dreadnought, I suppose. Very much what we're trying to accomplish here. I will play the Shadowspear. It's going to be the Force of Will. Sure. We did that because we didn't really care about it resolving. And then with this one, we'll get ourselves a Soul Guide Lantern, I think. We'll take out one of the... We'll take out the Spell Bomb because that'll probably be their only Spell Bomb. So now they won't be able to recur even if they deal with our Lantern. And we're holding up Source of Plowshares. So we're trying to fade Otawara and Hurkyl's Recall. Right, there's a Bauble. I don't know if they're going to have a second Spell Bomb. Seems unlikely, but it's not out of the realms of possibility. I assume they're going to come in for 2. Nope, they're maybe just soaking a tiny bit of damage here. Interesting. Attacks. Sure, so we're going to trample over for a bunch. Oh, we're getting some cost paid. A Dismember. Okay. I'm surprised they didn't use their Mox Opal for one of the black mana for this. Another Dismember. We're going to get trade off here. Wowzers, trousers. Opponent's got 1 card in hand. Let's play out our Dreadnought. I think we'll play this on Urza's Saga. We were quite fortunate that in the first game we didn't show them any of this Dreadnought stuff. We just showed them the Painter. They did see the Mycosynth Gardens though. So I'm going to name Urza's Saga because we're not going to get any tokens out of our Urza's Saga anyway. And this stops them deploying a guy off of their Saga. I'm not sure what use that guy is going to be. Alright, so we got the concession there. So game 1 Painter, game 2 Dreadnought. Almost felt like we were transformational there just because we drew the different halves of our deck each time. But yeah, that felt alright. I think our opponent's draw was decidedly weak because they had all these Dismembers in for the Painter, but that's just not where you want to be against the Dreadnought. So yeah, the sort of brewer's edge there with an unknown deck list definitely helped us out in that one. But we are 1-0. Let's go to round 2. I'm going to keep this hand. This is our opening hand for round 2. We've got a pretty serviceable Saga game that we can start playing straight away. And if our Once Upon a Time finds us something like a Hushbringer, we can go turn 1 Saga, turn 2 Hushbringer, and then Dreadnought, 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 and smash them up with those. So I think we're going to keep this one. Our opponent's mulligan to 6 so far. Alright, our opponent kept 6. A Polluted Delta, usually an unfair land, but they're getting a Tundra. So this could be Nile Spellbomb off of a Polluted Delta. That's probably means they're an Urza Saga deck, and that's a singleton. That would be my assumption. Let's play out our Saga first, because this isn't a spell, and it means that we can pay for a daze if they try to daze our Once Upon a Time. Not a big fan of these things I'm seeing right now. I'm going to take the Gardens, because this does mean that we can produce a Dreadnought later on. Our opponent is showing us stuff that maybe makes me want to have a Saga Lantern in play. They're like a breakfast type deck. That's a Saga deck with Tundra in that might have a black splash for now Spellbomb. The fact that they're thinking about this makes me think that my read on them being breakfast might be right. Because like the blue-white breakfast deck does splash a tiny bit of black so it can hard cast a Cabal Therapy at times. So that could be what we're looking at here. And the Now Spellbomb is just their way of playing a Saga Lantern, but better because they have black mana, so they get to do both things and draw a card at the same time. Alright, let's see what our opponent gives us information-wise this turn. A Brainstorm in a blue deck. Who'd have thought? Right, so play a blue Delta, so they've got the fetch to make it a perfect Brainstorm. So our control deck, we can probably get a lot of work done with our Saga here. Play this out, and we'll play out a Lotus Petal because it'll pump the size of our constructs. And then we'll pass. So we're going to make a Saga token, We're not on the Dreadnought plan, I'm afraid, but we do have the Mycosynth Gardens for a Dreadnought plan later on if that's where we end up. Nomads and Core. So my read on our opponent being a breakfast deck seems like it was pretty spot on. It's almost like I play lots of Legacy all the time. Right, let's make a token. I think if we got a cool thing that we can use for this. Cool way of disrupting their combo here. We have this Torpor Orb that we're going to cast, but I think we're still making this because we can use our Lotus Petal to cast it. Or we can go and get a Mox Opal here. What do I think is going to be useful here? Is it just a Mox Opal? Is Haywire Mite doing anything for us here? I think Haywire Mite is where I want to be. Let me just get a Mox. And we'll play out a replacement Saga. This matchup should be pretty good for us because we've got all these cards that are naturally good against what they're trying to do. We're playing this before combat because it's going to make our construct bigger. This requires a Force of Will from our opponent. Sure, Force of Will was the exile for that one. Because I'll give them 2 permanents they have to interact with. I imagine what they're probably trying to do is save up for a 5-mana line with Teferi, bounce the Saga Lantern, and play Cephalid Illusionist on the same turn. Unless they have the Thassa's Oracle in hand, in which case they can just do the win with 4 mana. The fact they're exiling our graveyard makes me think they don't have much going on and they're just trying to dig. Right, they're cracking a Polluted Delta. Hard casting a Narcomoeba. That's not where your opponent wants to be. A Shuko. They're going to have a 2-1 Narcomoeba. Exciting stuff. Not really how they drew this one up, I would imagine. A Savannah. So this Mycosynth Gardens is awkward in some ways because we need to get one more turn of doing our thing. Because we need to make a copy of our Saga Lantern and that way they can't bounce it and just have a 5-mana line to kill us. But we'll attack with these 2 guys. They have to block one of them. So the Narcomoeba is going to go under the bus. I will activate and make a token now because it will give us 6 damage here. Alright, our opponent is conceding there. Sure, breakfast. The Pithing Needle is pretty useful here. Where did that Pithing Needle go? There it went. Okay, so we want the Pithing Needle in. I think we don't want the Haywire Mite here. Although it does blow up the opposing Shuko and it does blow up the Saga. Maybe I do want them. We definitely want the Saga Lantern, that's for sure. Again, I'm not really convinced that Skrelv is where I want to be here. I'm not particularly impressed by Skrelv as a card in general, to be honest with you. There's a Haywire Mite. Surgical Extraction is obviously good. I would like these in. Canonist has some pretty tasty text too. And what we're looking at here. The Portable Hole can certainly get rid of one of their guys. I think we might just be looking at trimming these again. It does kind of dig us to some of the things that we might want, but I think we're just going to roll like this. Well, Once Upon a Time was like a good sort of filler card in game 1, but when you know what composition of your deck is going to be better, it kind of feels a little less impressive. It's not like we're a deck like Eldrazi Stomper used to be, where it was very dependent on its opening hand, so it needed this it needed very specific lands and creatures to really do anything. This is very good. This is pretty decent. So we've got Shuko covered, we've got Nomads and Core covered, we've got their actual combo covered. I'm going to keep this hand. Our Mox Opal is turned on for the green mana on turn 2 because we go Plains into Ancient Den with Pithing Needle on turn 1. So this seems alright. Certainly numerous ways we can come unstuck here. A ponder. That's not the turn 2 goldfish. That's good. It's not turn 1 nomads, turn 2 kill us. They did not shuffle with their ponder. That's a little bit upsetting for us, but we'll live. Haywire Mite. Let's play out Pithing Needle. We'll name nomads and core, because the Haywire Mite can interact with the Shuko at instant speed as well, because Shuko is a sorcery speed activation, whereas nomads is instant. So the question here is, what do we deploy next turn? We'll see. Staff the Storyteller. Good cards are good. Alright. I think we're going to blow this up with a Haywire Mite. It does leave us shields down with the Hushbringer. So I have to have to think about that. I just don't want our opponent to get more cards, because that's how this game gets out of control here. Because we've got a lot of sort of 1-for-1 answers. If they can start stacking up a load of counters on a staff, then we're in trouble. Right, so we'll play out an Ancient Den. Play out a Mox Opal. We'll play out a Haywire Mite. Let's see if they want to fight over this and keep their staff alive. They do. Force of Will pitching Narcomoeba. Alright. That means I'm going to play this Haywire Mite out and blow up the staff. I really like this card. It's one of my favourite cards I've been printing for a while. It's just a very simple design, which you don't get a lot of these days in Magic. It's got great art too. What's not to love? If they had the win next turn, they would save the Force of Will for protection, so we just want to cut their legs out from underneath them a little bit, and then we can tap into a Hushbringer now that their Force of Will shields are down. Find a Strand. Get pecked away for 1. You see Stoneforge here. Another staff. Okay. So we stop them having one of the staffs at least. This is where it is as when you create, not when a token comes into play. So it's not going to get stopped by Hushbringer, unfortunately. I'd like to find something like an Urza Saga. Some sort of useful business spell here. Painter's Servant. That's an interesting. Do we test with a Painter's Servant here? Or is that playing into Days? If they've got Force of Will and they go Hellbent, then it's not the worst thing in the world for us. This doesn't stop Painter's Servant, because this is an as it enters. This is a when. Because this is no trigger. It just happens. So I think we're going to see an activation of Staff the Storyteller to see if they can find a card to stop this. Oh, excuse me. Alright, so we're in. What colour am I supposed to be naming here? I don't think they're going to have Solitude. I think we maybe make them think we have Solitude by choosing white here. We're definitely not naming blue to make their Force of Will easier. But they haven't shown us... They've shown us the Nile Spellbomb. Do I think they're going to have Snuff Out? I guess it's kind of free for us to play around the Snuff Out here. So we may as well do that. We've got the Spirit Tokens checked. And we can attack into them with our Painter's Servant. So we're doing okay. Our opponent can find cantrips, and that's just going to really mess with us. And they can find an Urza Saga before we do. Our Urza Sagas will be bigger. Okay, no Urza Saga on the other side. That's good. Stoneforge Mystic doesn't do anything. Teferi. This is a good one. This can bounce. Okay, they're going to bounce the Painter because they're scared of getting killed. That's fair. But we have a land, so if we draw the Grindstone, we can kill them anyway. Provided it resolves. Right. So I imagine they've drawn a cantrip. By the way, they're instantly cracking its fetch after activating the Teferi. You can see a ponder here. No, a white. Oh, a blue. Okay, yeah. So there's a ponder, I think. Yeah. So an Urza Saga. Obviously, a Grindstone would be a pretty good draw, but an Urza Saga would be a fine draw. A Dreadnought is all right here. Another Torpor Orb is probably okay as well. We don't really want that many Torpor Orb effects, but they are very good against our opponent's deck. So if we can force our opponent to have to answer all of these things, then we'll be in an okay shape. Alright, it's our turn. A Portable Hole. What does this achieve? What does this achieve? We can get rid of Staff of the Storyteller if that's the thing we care about. But I don't know if it is. I think we'll play this out. Play this. Name black. What we can do here is we can Portable Hole away one of the Spirit Tokens and then attack the Teferi. I don't hate that as a play. Am I supposed to be getting rid of the Staff of the Storyteller? Or am I supposed to be getting rid of one of the tokens so I can attack? I think we need to try and get this Teferi gone. So I'm going to try and get rid of one of their tokens. This gives us an attack with the Hushbringer this turn into the Teferi. So they can chump here and keep their Teferi alive. But they'll need to find some creatures next turn to keep it alive. Now, if they just play something that makes tokens next turn, then I'm not going to feel great about this attack. But I think you should try and beat the things on board. I've certainly lost games by trying to play around stuff that isn't even part of the game yet. Whereas it's fair if we let this tick up for longer, so it gets another bounce off, that's going to start giving them a lot of card advantage then. And it'll give them a way around our Hushbringer effect to possibly kill us. Saga. Okay, this game has certainly taken a turn now. What we got here? Staff of Storyteller. Yep, a little bit punished for not taking the staff there. But we can attack Teferi with 2 creatures and they'll have to chump block. But then they're going to start getting Saga stuff going. Yeah, our opponent is pulling ahead. So this is going to give them 2 cards. They got another one. Alright. A prismatic ending as well. So we don't have the ability to just win the game now. Which is a shame. Dreadnought maybe would be nice. A Canonist. Okay, I guess we go to attacks here. This is going to attack Teferi. Going to chump block, or you're going to just take a counter off your Teferi. I'm going to draw a card first. Yeah, they are pulling so far ahead in this game now. Staff of Storyteller is just so strong. We're kind of suffering from the fact that our deck is 2 halves this time because we've drawn half of each of our halves, if that makes sense. Whereas in the first round, we drew all of one half and then all of the second half. And that was good enough to smash our opponent down. But now we've kind of got Hushbringers and Painters, which aren't really great friends together. So now they get to start making Urza Saga tokens, and they've got 2 artifacts in play already. So the first one's going to come out at 3/3 and stop me from attacking on the ground with a Canonist. The Hushbringer can keep the Teferi in check to stop it bouncing, but that's about it. And they've got another card to cash in off the staff, and every time they make Saga construct tokens, they're going to be drawing cards of Staff of the Storyteller. So I think we're just fishing for information a little bit now, and this game is pretty much over. Let's go to attacks. I don't know how we're supposed to win this game now. Maybe if we can keep this down, we can get a Phyrexian Dreadnought into play. Our Urza Sagas will be decent size, but their Urza Saga's cantrip, which is bananas. So yeah, each Urza Saga is going to be drawing 4 cards, right? So they're going to activate and draw 2 cards. And they're going to untap, activate. I don't know how we're supposed to beat this. It's just insane value. The plan now is to see some more cards out of our opponent's deck to see if they kept the combo in or they've sort of transformed into something else. I imagine they keep some number of their combo in, but then maybe trim a little bit. But so far, the staff is kind of main deck for a lot of breakfast decks these days because it's just so powerful. It's just an absolute legacy staple now in my view. Alright, let's have a look. A Ponder, because they've got Teferi, they can do all of this in our end step. Is they can find an Illusionist. They might be able to combo with Shuko this turn. However, we have Ethersworn Canonist, so maybe they'll miss that and we can get them to make a mistake. But if they do start comboing, we at least get to see their deck and how they've sideboarded, which is the main reason I'm still playing this game. Right, so our opponent's drawing... so they're putting counters on their staff whilst making a guy. They've got a Shuko. They have an Illusionist. Right, they're plussing their Teferi. I imagine they're going to equip. They've equipped on the wrong one, but it doesn't matter because they can just move it across to the other one. Separate Illusionist, sure. This is the only spell they get to cast this turn. So if they mill their whole library forgetting that we have a Canonist in play, then we can win the game. Looks like they haven't done that and they're just going to win on their next turn. So what do we need here? Mycosynth Gardens doesn't do anything. I guess we have to keep attacking this Teferi so they can't just bounce this. I'm surprised they didn't attack with their construct. So this Mycosynth Gardens, if I copy the Pithing Needle, it would be a Pithing Needle. It does nothing. Same with the Portable Hole. It does mean that we can make a lot of Phyrexian Dreadnoughts if we draw one. We just need to keep this Teferi from bouncing, because as soon as they bounce the Hushbringer, we lose the game. If they kill the Hushbringer, we lose the game. Like, they've drawn nearly half their deck. Just getting out-carded here. They've used quite a lot of time on their clock, though, so not that I really want to try and win that way, but it's a possibility if we go into a game 3. So you're going to attack this time, opponent. Still no attacks. That's fascinating to me. Surgical Extraction. Well, that's an answer to what they're doing. So let's attack Teferi. They're not going to attack us. I don't really know what's going on. Are they just trying to have enough protection in their hands when they do go off? It's just like final. But I don't know why you're not attacking with a 6/5 construct. It just seems a free attack here. Brainstorm, this is the only non-artifact spell our opponent gets to cast this turn. Now we can find a Dreadnought, we might be able to win because of the way our opponent's playing here. They can start attacking now. Still no attacks. Plus an Teferi. Well, it's only a matter of time before they find something. They're drawing so many cards here. Good attacks. Keep it Teferi off of 3. 5 mana. What is this going to be? Is this going to be the step through bouncing 2 of our guys? That's pretty good. Yeah, so they put a load of blue in their pool. Step through. Okay, they're bouncing our guys. Okay. Interesting. So we can't cast our Surge of Extraction right now because of the Teferi. But if their plan is to plus it this turn and then go off on the next turn, then that's pretty good for us. We still have a Canonist in play, so it's going to be... I guess it's not going to be that awkward. They can just go for it now. Alright, so they're going for it by the looks of it. We're doing this so we can see their deck and see how they've sideboarded. So they can cast sorceries at instant speed now because of Teferi, so they can dread return in response if we had a surgical extraction. Not that we can cast it because the Teferi stops us from doing that. But we're just going to see our opponent sideboarding. That's why we're letting them go through the motions. We're not trying to run down their clock. It doesn't hurt, but I think it's important just to see what they're working with. So yeah, the full 4 staffs, pretty standard now. 1 Hercules recall, some amount of prismatic endings. This looks like a build without Stoneforge Mystic, which is good information to know because we're not having to face down a Cauldron now. How many Sagas do we have here? 1 Saga, 2 Saga, 3 Saga, 4. The full Sagas. Why have they done this? They had the win right here. Have they just messed this up, right? They're taking our Hushbringer. Sure. But we have a Surgical Extraction that we can fire off on their Thassa's Oracle next turn. Because they can't cast another spell because we have the Canonist in play. You going to attack now, opponent? If you don't attack now, then you're going to die to decking, perhaps. Now, our opponent's got 4 cards in hand. Right, let's cast Torpor Orb first. They've got a counter spell, they have to use this. And because we have the Canonist, we get to Surgical Extraction. Sure. So we'll play this, because this is an artifact spell, so we get to keep it. Now we get to cast this on their Thassa's Oracle. For black mana, they can't cast any spells because of our Canonist. We do have to beat the... that's what they got in hand. Cephalid Illusionist. Alright, they've conceded that one. Yeah, they had this game sewn up if they just attacked with their construct tokens. I think we got lucky there, to be honest. Our opponent drew so many cards and definitely had the resources to beat us there. On that turn, they had the Teferi, so I don't know why they didn't just... I guess they had to Cabal Therapy themselves to put... No, they didn't have a second black mana, did they? That's kind of the problem for them. Yeah, they're in a bit of a bind with the Dread Return in hand. I'm just trying to think what they could have done slightly differently. Like, if they'd just been attacking and just played a beatdown game, I think they win that game. I don't think they need to try and go off that turn and do all their things. I don't think that's necessary, really. So, yeah. Alright, we're 2-0. I'll take it. Let's go to round 3. Alright. We're on the play. Our opening hand doesn't really play much magic. We could try and find a land, but when we're still going to be looking for our second land, this is just a little too risky for me. And we're going to mulligan this one. Hello. I'll keep this one. What are we getting rid of? Probably the Torpor Orb. Right, we could regret that if our opponent's on certain decks. Alright. So here is a Mox Opal. Here is a Lotus Petal. This is a slightly trickier one. We can play out the Grindstone now. And then we can play out the Painter's Servant. But then we're going to need to find another land next turn to kill our opponent. If our opponent interacts with this, we're obviously not playing the Painter's Servant now. Alright. Force of Will pitching Fairy Mastermind. Sure, so we're some sort of control-y type deck. Whether that's going to be Shark Steel, Jeskai Control, some sort of blue-black concoction. We'll hopefully find out. A Wasteland. Interesting. By interesting, I mean very miserable. Oakley dokley. Just going to jam this guy. We're going to name black in case our opponent is on. Do we want to jam out the Hushbringer now? It'll take us off Metalcraft. And it'll strand us without any colours. I don't think we do that. If we were casting a white artifact creature or something, then I'd be totally down for that. But that's not what's happening. So if we draw a Dreadnought next turn, we can go like Hushbringer, Dreadnought, do all that sort of stuff. Well, like, we also have to win if we draw the other Grindstone, so I think we've got 2 in the deck. A Mox Opal, you say? Let's make a Hushbringer. A very fetching black and white Hushbringer. We can play around a Daze, but I don't think our opponent's going to be a Daze deck. Well, they have Wastelands, so maybe they're more on the tempo front. But you occasionally see like 2-color control decks with a handful of Wastelands because there are just some really annoying lands like Urza Saga that if you can deal with them cleanly, it's worth being able to do that. But they could be on some sort of... Ooh, we're seeing another Force of Will here. Force of Will pitching Daze. Sure, they are on a Daze deck. Interesting. So, Dreadnoughts are an appalling draw for us right now. Saga's a great draw. Grindstone's a good draw. A great draw too. We do kind of have a lot of clunky draws now. Because they've taken out half of both of our combos. A Stoneforge Mystic. That's obviously why they want the Hushbringer to not do anything. This is probably going to get a Cauldra, I'd imagine, and just put this game away. Yeah. It's Cauldra. We're going to sort of not do anything. They want to end this game before we can find the thing that kills them. It's a little too late there. Like, we're still playing it. Because it means that our Dreadnoughts are good draws. But it's a little on the awkward side. We can't attack with the Servant because they'll just chump it. They'll just bounce off of it with their 1-2. So might as well keep it back. We're going to need to find something to deal with this Cauldra. Now, Haywire Mite does deal with Cauldra. Because it exiles rather than destroys. So it's kind of a nice little answer to Cauldra. Our opponent seems to be pretty heavy into the blue-white Stoneblade here. Let's see what land they fetch off of this. This is another Tundra, then I'm going to be pretty happy in the knowledge that they are just a blue-white deck. Now, they might have red spells in the sideboard. That's one of the things we might have to worry about. Things like Meltdown, which will not be great for us, truth be told. So, Haywire Mite is a good draw for us. Grindstone's a good draw for us. Phyrexian Dreadnought is okay. Guess we're on play Soulguide Lantern. I guess we'll get rid of Ponder. So we have an option here of drawing a card. It will cost us 2 life, which won't put us into range of getting killed. Not this turn, but it will mean that we can't activate the Ancient Tomb again. I think because of the situation we're in is so bad, we're just going to draw the card now and hope we find something. That's something, isn't it? Alright. So our opponent attacks us for 5. We attack them for 12. Then we chump block. I think we are incentivized to chump block this turn. If we chump block this turn with the Painted Servant, we take 2, and then we die on the following turn. I think we... but we can't... we won't be able to Grindstone if we... Yeah, if we take the 5, we'll go to 2, so our Ancient Tomb won't be active, so we won't be able to Grindstone even if we draw it. So I think just making sure that we save ourselves a little bit of damage this turn is probably okay. We're looking for Shadowspear. Haywire Mite also fine. That gains us life and it blows up the Cauldra. Prismatic Ending on Phyrexian Dreadnought. Nope, a Murktide Regent. Alright. Not a great one for us there. Painted Servant. We can play this out. We can attack for 12, but we're dead in multiple ways. We're not coming out of this one. Alright. So our opponent is like a Daze, Wastelandy, Stoneforge deck. It's kind of like slightly bigger Delver. So I think these plows are going to be good. The Haywire Mite's going to be good against the Stoneforge. I don't think we need those. These sorts of things might be okay. There's going to be some amount of meltdowns on our opponent's sideboard, I think, because they've shown us a lot of fetch lands that I imagine it's basically free for them to have a red splash, even though they didn't get it that turn, that game, but they were trying to hide it from us, perhaps. Soulguide Lantern is going to be okay because they have a Murktide. All the Torpor Orb stuff is going to be fine. Oswald Fiddlebender, not convinced I necessarily want the Fiddlebender. The reason I like the Canonist is because it stops our opponent from doing the multiple spells, they can't ponder into the thing that beats us. They need to take an extra turn to do that. If we trim the Fiddlebenders here, sorry mate, what are we looking at there? Like, this does kind of glue things together, but it's very vulnerable glue. I think we need to cut one more thing here. I think in the face of Meltdown, I would like to remove a Mox Opal from our deck. Or we would like to remove this portable hole. No, we'll leave the portable hole in. I don't really like, I just don't like Skrelv either, but I guess we can keep him in. It can keep our guys alive. Just not been impressed with it in the times I've played with it so far. This is a turn 2 kill, a turn 3 kill, but we can slow down. I think I'm going to slow down here. We're pretty cold to the old meltdowns. So if we slow our roll by 1 turn, we get to play with Blacksmith's skill. I think is okay here. Try this Ancient Den. This is the one I care about getting wastelanded least. Keeping our green manas relatively useful. The Tundra and no play. So our opponent has shown us that they're a Daze deck. I think we will play this Hushbringer into a Daze to try and make way for the Painter. Right, we're in with the Hushbringer. So our opponent probably doesn't have a Stoneforge for turn 2, would be my guess. Oh, they have no land. Interesting. Sure. Let's try this little guy. We'll name Black. We've got the Blacksmith skill here if our opponent tries to kill it on their turn with something like a Prismatic Ending. If we can draw another land, then we can protect it on our turn as we combo. A Ponder. Okay. That's step 1 for us. Found a land. Curious why they kept their hand. Okay, so they have a Wasteland. This is target permanent, so we're going to use it if they Wasteland us. Alright. Our opponent didn't show us anything like Force of Vigor. Let's go and get the Grindstone. Play this out. We will play out the Soulguide Lantern just in case our opponent has an Emrakul in their deck. Trying to work out what our opponent can have for 0 mana here. They could have a Solitude, but we have a Hushbringer, so that wouldn't work. Yeah, I don't think there's anything. We're just going to grind this once our opponent gives us back priority. Let's mill them out. Are they going to let us see their deck? Or are they going to concede? They're going to let us see their deck. Fairy Mastermind, Call to Complete, Thoughtseize. They got a few Thoughtseizes in there. But yeah. Our opponent must have a bunch of spells in hand. Well, we know they've got 7 spells in hand, right? Okay. Game 3 then. So we've seen our opponent's deck. We've got a pretty good handle on what they're doing now. We didn't see any meltdown type stuff in their decks. That was really useful that they didn't show us, that they showed us the whole deck. Would we like to change anything because we don't think meltdown's in there? Honestly, I think we're fine as we are here. Maybe we want the 3rd Mox Opal instead of the 4th Lotus Petal. But otherwise I think we're okay. We could bring in these March of Otherworldly Lights to deal with their Cauldron Germ. But we have 2 Haywire Mites and we got the 3 Swords to Plowshares. That's a reasonable amount of stuff. Our opening hand here is an interesting one. I think, well, we're going to keep it, but I think we'll probably lead out Ancient Tomb into Painter's Servant. Because I don't mind if our Ancient Tomb gets wastelanded. And that way we get something on the board straight away. And then we can just play an Urza Saga game afterwards. So we'll try and bait out the wasteland with the Ancient Tomb a little bit. So our Urza Saga can do its thing. It's kind of what I'm going to go for here. We have the Mycosynth Gardens, which can become a copy of an Ancient Den if necessary. Let's keep. Our opponent looks like they've kept a 7 as well. A Tundra. And no play. Does this change how I want to approach this game? I think because we have 2 Painted Servant, we're still going to do the play I said. If they have a Daze here, then that's fine for us. We didn't see a Snuff Out, but they might have had some Snuff Outs in hand. Probably should have looked more carefully in their graveyard just to make sure though. Oh, Wasteland. Are they going to bait this out on the Ancient Tomb? We are. Okay, so that went kind of as we wanted it to. Interesting. So now I'll play this one out. And do I want to jam the Haywire Mite here, or do I want to jam the Shadowspear? I'd rather resolve the Haywire Mite, I think. So I'm going to play the Shadowspear into a Daze, because I don't mind if they Daze this. And next turn we can play out Haywire Mite. There's another wasteland. Okay. So we baited one of the wastelands out, but they had another one. Sometimes happens, but that's okay. It's not great, is what it is, but that's Mycosynth Gardens. I don't think we need to play out the Haywire Mite now. We can play it around a days so that we're going to be more reliably able to kill a Cauldra when it comes down. Scoring Tarn. Is this the turn they deploy the Stoneforge? It is. Sure. So they're going to get Cauldra. Yeah. They do have a bunch of cards in hand, unfortunately. A Torpor Orb. A little bit late here. But we'll play the Torpor Orb into a Daze. Do we play the Torpor into a Daze? We could equip the Shadowspear and a Bash this turn. And next time we can play a Haywire Mite around a Daze. That seems okay. Not great, but okay. Gives us a little bit more life to work with. We don't want to throw our Painter Servant under the bus. It means they'll only be clocking us for 3 a turn instead of 5. And once we get the Haywire Mite down, we should be alright. Ponder from our opponent before activating their Stoneforge. Getting as much information about their turn as possible before they commit to any plays. This is the correct way to play Magic most of the time. They did not shuffle. But that might mean they only wanted one card because they have a fetch hand that they can get rid of the other 2. Even so, they found a card they wanted. Interesting. They didn't put their Cauldra in. They're going to put it on blocks instead. That is interesting to me. Play this Haywire Mite. If they put in the Cauldra now, we can then get it with the Haywire Mite. Unless they have a free spell to kill our Haywire Mite, they can't put this in and kill our guy. Because most of their removals, like we saw, it was Prismatic Endings and Source to Plowshares. Disenchant. A very weird play. Alright, we'll pass to our opponent. We can't really deploy the Cauldra. Good old-fashioned Disenchant. Nice to see it seeing some play. Source to Plowshares on our little guy. Non-creature artifact or non-creature enchantment. Okay, we're going to make another one using our Mycosynth Gardens. Sure. So we've still got the Cauldra checked here. Not this turn, mind you. And we're not showing any green mana. But that's going to make our opponent think about whether or not they want this Cauldra in play. We are in an awkward spot. We have to save 2 mana to filter into the Mycosynth Gardens. So you're going to need to save the Gardens and an Ancient Den to do this. Which means you can't deploy anything else. Which is really annoying. So if our opponent can just keep developing their mana and doing other stuff, that's going to favour them in a big way because they're going to have cantrips and things. Right, our opponent took a while to think about that. They've decided not to commit their Cauldra to the board. They're going to attack for 1 with Stoneforge. No. Alright. We're just going to sort of sit here staring at each other a little bit. Alright, there's a Mycosynth Gardens. We can deploy a second Haywire Mite here, though. Which I don't hate. Or rather, a third Haywire Mite. Mono Mites. But we do need to do something soon. Like, we've got the Cauldra checked, but our opponent has shown us Murktide in their deck. We don't really have an answer for that. Fairy Mastermind. Sure, that's the other creature they showed us. This is what I mean, that they can hold up their mana for a Cauldra, and if we hold up ours to deal with it, they can deploy something else. So we are just falling behind in quite a big way now. Right, so they're going to start nipping at us for 2 in the air. It's not the fastest clock, so it's not that scary, but we do need to do something with our mana. If we can draw another land so we can deploy the Ethersworn Canonist, that would be real great. Or a green source would be even better. A Painter's Servant. You're not what I wanted. Okay. We just got to take our beats for a few more turns until we get there. Another Fairy Mastermind. We're a little bit cold to flyers, truth be told. Alright, we take our hits. It's back to us. A Savannah. Hallelujah. Alright. Give me Ethersworn Canonist. So next turn we can put the Shadowspear on the Canonist and start bashing for 3. And we'll be taking 4 but gaining 3. So we'll be losing 1 a turn and our opponent will be losing 3 a turn. So that does slightly favour us. And we can start committing more things to the board, like Painter's Servant that can attack pretty favourably into our opponent's board. If they eventually put the Stoneforge under the bus, which they might do. I just wanted to get this Cauldra down so I can start using my mana again. I suspect that's not going to be what happens. Just get Hercule's recalled here. 3 mana. Alright, so we're both drawing a card, but they draw an extra card. Alright. They draw 2 extra cards, they got 2 Fairy Masterminds. Yep, that checks out. So, what are we trying to dodge now? The Murktide is kind of the thing that's going to bury us, I think. It's only a matter of time, I think, before the blue player uses their cantrips to find the thing that gets us. Now, the Canonist is going to slow that down, but it's not going to be ideal still. Alright. Take a hit there. A Ponder. So this is our opponent's only spell of the turn. We can deploy another Canonist. We can also turn our Mycosynth Gardens into a Canonist if that's the thing we want to do. Not really sure it is, but it's an option for us. We can also start working towards a Grindstone kill soon, perhaps. A Soul Guide Lantern. This is actually a card I'm interested in casting, which is nice. And we're going to equip this onto our Ethersworn Canonist. We need to exile our opponent's graveyard because they are representing Murktide. There's a plow on our little guy. Sorry, little guy. Put a Soul Guide Lantern. Doesn't really matter what we get rid of here. In our opponent's upkeep, we're going to exile their whole graveyard anyway, just to stop Murktides coming in and ruining our day. And then I guess we can put Soul Guide Lantern on our Haywire Mite, maybe? Not Soul Guide, Shadowspear. Start attacking, or we can play a Canonist. Depends on how rapidly we're going to need the life. A Fairy Mastermind. Yep, they've got some fairies. Stops the Murktide. The life we're gaining is hopefully going to be enough, but it's getting tough out there. This is like a 3-turn clock, right? Oh, they're all coming in. Okay, then we just have to take it, sadly. Getting rid of our Shadowspear. That's a bit of an issue. Do want to gain 2 life here so that we're not dead on the next turn. I think so. And that's the stage we're in here. Not sure how we're going to actually win this game. 1, 2, 3, 4. We can't deploy Painter Grindstone combo. Phyrexian Dreadnought. What does that do? Maybe? Let's try it. Play the big boy. Blue, blue. A daze. This is annoying. Because if we pay for the daze, we get killed by the Cauldron. We don't get killed. Yeah, we do get killed by the Cauldron, right? So we have to let this get countered. Yuck. That's pretty grim for us. Sort of Plowshares on our guy, and we just dead to Cauldron anyway. Yeah, our opponent's got us there. Yeah, like our deck. Again, we have like 2 halves of our deck, and if we draw half of each half, then our deck is bad. And that's kind of what happened a fair bit here. Or they could answer half of our thing and blank load of our cards, because our cards are independently very poor. It's only when they're together they become good, and it's very easy for decks like this to just pick those apart for us. Alright, so we're 2 and 1. Let's go to round 4. We're on the play. We need a land, but we can do some pretty gross Dreadnought stuff, so I'm going to keep this. Go gadget once upon a time. To be fair, another artifact is also going to be pretty useful here. Unfortunately, we do have 2 once upon a time, which is a little bit stinky because the second one is going to actually cost real mana. Imagine paying mana for your cards. Disgraceful. Right, let's cast a free spell and see what we find. We found some land. That's good. I guess we want the Savannah. And play out the Savannah because this lets us cast once upon a time down the road. I've taken an Ancient Den there over that, to be fair, if there was one, because then we could have Metalcraft on turn 2, so we could actually deploy a Dreadnought on turn 2. But we're just going to look like a run-of-the-mill, sort of mavericky, Newton Elves type list. A Chromox. Okay, that doesn't bode well for us. What is this going to be? That is a Shatter Skull Smashing. So we can get Blood Moon here. Fable and Mirrorbreaker. Okay. Can kind of live with that. Well, I don't really have a choice, do I? So, Haywire Mite. So if we pay 1 for this Haywire Mite, then play the Mox Opal, then we'll have Metalcraft. Yeah, so we play this. So our opponent's not really going to interfere with what we're doing here. Shatterskull Smashing means this is just mono red prison. Plays Mox Opal. Plays Hushbringer. No Furies from our opponent. No initiative from our opponent. And then we just get to dump 2 Dreadnoughts in their lap next turn. And we can Haywire Mite away an Ensnaring Bridge or something if that's the thing they have. So I like the spot we're in. Even if they have a Blood Moon, it doesn't really affect us now because we've got the Mox Opal online. Our Ancient End will be an artifact mountain. So we'll still have the types we need for our mana. But we're just going to play 24 power next turn and hope that does enough to win the game. Usually it's pretty good. Getting an attack in. We can play 2 Dreadnoughts and blow up something they have, which is pretty good. Alright, let's tap in some mana. 3 mana in the pool. 4 mana. Khan, the Great Creator. Okay, that's pretty annoying. Alright. Not happy about that. Basic land, please. Or any land is fine. We go to attacks. Attack all creatures at Khan, the Great Creator, please. So we can't use our Haywire Mite to blow up something like an Ensnaring Bridge here. Play this out. Play this out. So they have to Ensnaring Bridge here, but our Hushbringer should be able to sail over if they do that. And then we access our Haywire Mite. Now they're probably going to have some other pretty funky Khan targets here. Let's see what they find. Ensnaring Bridge, sure. Now Haywire Mite not being able to activate, a bit awkward. What do we want here? Interesting they're attacking with that. Sure. We will gobble that up. I guess they need to keep the cards out of their hand here. Alright, we've got Once Upon a Time that can dig us into something, but a Painter's Servant. Is that something we want here? I don't think it is. Let's cast a Once Upon a Time. And there's a Saga. That's probably quite good, isn't it? Jam this one down. Go to attacks. It's going to attack Khan. So the Khan's going to have to keep plussing. It can get rid of our Mox Opal by doing that, unfortunately. But as soon as the Khan dies... So our Urza Saga can make some guys that can attack the Khan is the plan. Alright, goodbye Mox Opal. You weren't tapping for mana anyway. You were adding to our count for these future Saga constructs. A Blood Moon would be annoying here in a big way. That cut us out from all of our mana really. I imagine if they had it they would have slammed it straight away. Although that would impact the amount of spells that they get to cast because they'd lose their Soul Land. They need to get these cards out of their hand. They're never going to have 12 cards in hand, so these Dreadnoughts aren't attacking. So I suppose that's not an issue either. 4 mana. What is this going to be? A Chandra Torch of Defiance. So this is probably going to nuke our Hushbringer here. As expected. Sure. Oakley dokely. You don't see much of the Planeswalker prison decks these days. Huh. That's an interesting one. The Grindstone doesn't activate anyway because of the Khan. So I think we're just passing and trying to make Saga tokens. There's going to be a 4 power guy. We might not make the second construct. We might only make the 1. They're adding 2 mana, so they're going to be able to empty their hand a little bit here. This could be a Fury. It'll ping off our Haywire Mite. Yokel Hops. Destroy all artifacts, creatures, and lands. They can't be regenerated. Sure. I think this was the build that Phil was playing the other day. Alright. Torpor Orb. We've got a couple of draws, but we're probably dead here. Trinisphere. Yeah, I'm happy to call that. Okay. Sideboarding wise. Haywire Mite, Pithing Needle both seem pretty decent. Mite I already like, gets rid of a bunch of their annoying stuff. The Canonists seem very poor here. It doesn't look like a matchup where we're going to want Plows because they're just trying to Yokel Hops us. Portable Hole has some targets. I don't think we're going to need this Solar Lantern. If they do have some like creature threat, we maybe want the Shadowspear to like get over the line. Do we want Skrelvs to defend against a Fury? Maybe. Maybe that's something we want. The Fiddlebender definitely feels like it's going to be able to find us some things to get us out of jam, so I don't mind that. There's 2 cuts. It's probably going to be Skrelv, right? I just unimpressed with that as a Magic the Gathering card. Maybe we could keep 1 and have a less once at a time. No, I'm just going to submit like this. Like, they're going to have either meltdowns or the 4-mana one that blows up a bunch of stuff anyway. What do we have here? An unkeepable hand, you say? Let's mulligan. Alright, this does some stuff. We'll keep this. And I think we'll bottom the Fiddlebender. And we're just going to start on Urza Saga here. And try and play an Urza Saga game. Get some stuff that can pressure Planeswalkers as soon as possible is the idea. We'll play this Lotus Petal because it can get locked out by a Trinisphere or something, so I'd rather have it in play. We're not too bad against Trinisphere because of our Ancient Tomb and stuff, but the other option we had here was keep the Oswald and try and use that to assemble Painter combo. Alright, so we got Chromox, Imprinting, Sim Spirit Guide, Fable of the Mirror Breaker, sure. A Torpor Orb. Do we want to try and make a Dreadnought right now? Or do we want... So we can play out this Ancient Tomb and we can deploy the Torpor Orb. That stops us from deploying a Saga construct this turn. I think I would rather have a Saga construct just because it's better versus the Snaring Bridge because it's going to be able to attack into it. If our opponent finds the thing that blows up all the artifacts, then we're just going to lose this game, I think. Our deck is quite fragile. So, alright, we discarded a city. I'm not going to trade my 2-2 for this guy. I want to have a guy that can pressure if they're about to make a 4-drop. It's annoying that they're going to get the treasure, but I think we just have to live with it. Chandra, Torch of Defiance. Sure, so we get to pressure this. It's probably in a plus so that we can't do that much damage to it. Or they're going to play a big thing this turn. Khan, the Great Creator. Sure. And it's plussing the Khan on our Lotus Petal. Yep, it's annoying. We do get a Pithing Needle to shut down one of these. I think we're probably just going to get toasted this game. So we're going to get ourselves the Pithing Needle here. I think we have to name it on... I think it has to be on the Khan. No, it has to be on the Chandra, and then we attack the Khan because we need the Chandra out of play. Chandra, Torch of Defiance. And then we can play out our land for the turn. This makes it a 4. We can't activate it, unfortunately. But this can attack the Khan. 4. It can plus and kill our Ancient Den, unfortunately. But this means if they minus it, it dies. So maybe we're supposed to play out the Mycosynth Gardens and then the Grindstone there. No, it's just a little bit sloppy play. This guy's coming in, is it? This feels like a trap. If they have Fury, this is really bad for us. We just have to let this go. Because if they have Fury, they can put 2 on this, 2 on this, and then they can plus the Khan on the Ancient Den, and then they'll both die, and then we'll lose the game. Now, if they just play a Fury anyway, we're probably dead too. We'll see. Chandra, guy that does stuff. Okay, this is what they were going to do to ping the last 2 points of damage. Okay, so they're going to use this to kill the Pithing Needle, and then they're going to use the Chandra to kill our construct, maybe. Yeah, our opponent is just bodying us pretty badly here. I feel our lucky streak that we had in the first couple of rounds has come to an end. Plussing mana, that's interesting to me. Just to play the ape. Oakley dokley. This is an artifact. I will play this. We can play another artifact if we want to. In the Torpor Orb, we've still got the Mycosynth Gardens for our land drop for the turn. So you can play the Torpor Orb. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We could play the Grindstone out as well. We'll just pop on. So we're going to force chump blocks on both of these this turn. Our life total is getting there, isn't it? So we have this. We'll deploy this as well. We'll go to attacks. We can try and sweep up one of these Chandras. What does this even do? This one. Discards your hand, play an extra card, deals 2 damage to targets. I think we need to take out the Khan here. I imagine they're just chump blocking. Because they can get a Yuckle Hops off and they're just going to win the game here. But we were not killing any Planeswalkers this turn because of the 2 blockers they had. Wow, they're attacking 1, 2, 3. This does make me think our opponent's trying to Yuckle Hops us this turn. Like, we're not a million miles from dead, right? This can ping us for 2, this can ping us for 2. Yep. Yeah, we can call it. So our opponent's deck is like a bit of a fun one, but the thing is, it's got pretty good tools. It's got better tools than regular Red Prison, to be honest, against what we're doing. Because again, our deck is very fragile, right? We're playing sort of two 15-card decks in a way, and we kind of smash them together. And sometimes we're going to draw half of each, and it's not going to be great. Sometimes we're going to make these crazy, like, super good Dreadnought plays. But we did the made a load of Dreadnought things, which just didn't work in this round because Calm just beat us. So yeah, a bit awkward, but we're 2-2, which is probably a fair record for the deck, in my opinion. Let's go to the final round and see if we can make it positive. What are we doing here? We've got a bunch of stuff. We can make a Dreadnought on turn 3. Is that good enough? I don't know. But it's what our hand does. It's kind of what our deck's supposed to do, so we'll see. Turn 1 Saga, turn 2 Torpor Orb, turn 3 Dreadnought, make another Dreadnought with Gardens, kill them turn 4. Is a turn 4 kill good enough for Legacy? I don't think so. Once Upon a Time. So this could be sort of like Newton-y Elves type deck. Grist, the Hunger Tide. Ignoble Hierarchy, yeah, that's what it feels like. So this Torpor Orb is probably going to be pretty good, as it so happens. I don't think we want to play out the Mox Opal just yet. We just pass the turn. We can play a second Urza Saga and just have all the Dreadnoughts all the days. So that seems like quite a fun one. There's the Grist we know about. They're going to make a guy. This will kill one of our Dreadnoughts, unfortunately. Right, so we play out this Lotus Petal. Play this Mox Opal. Play this other Urza Saga. Question mark, question mark. Let's have a look. Yeah, no, I think we do this. And then we jam this. And I think I'm going to jam... If we jam Oswald and it sticks, we can just win the game off of Painter Grindstone next turn instead. Elvish Reclaimer, sure. Guy's Cradle. Greenstone's there for 2. So this is going to name Collector Oof. Not name, go and find Collector Oof, yeah. So the other plan is off, but we're just going to make some big guys. And the Grist is going to be annoying, but I guess we make white mana, go and get... Oh no, the Pithing Needle's in the sideboard. Why is the Pithing Needle in our sideboard? Oh, they're killing our Oswald. Alright, that's good for us, because they won't be able to kill all the Dreadnoughts. Let's make some mana. Big boy. And then we'll get the Dreadnought off the other one. Well, I tapped this already. That was weird. Yeah, so we're going to play this one out. We're going to play out the Canonist. Could have made it as a Saga token instead that turn, actually. That might have been better. But this way our opponent can't do, like... They don't seem like one of the decks that draws a bunch of cards and does a load of, like, Wirewood Symbiote stuff. They're just playing sort of black-green mid-rangey with the ability to have a little bit of a tutor box with Reclaimers and Greenstone Zenith, and then also have the win off of Natural Order whenever they want it. They can kill this Dreadnought, but we got another one coming. We can stop some of the good Natural Order targets here because of the Torpor Orb. So Crater Hoof is not scary here. What are they getting rid of? Presumably the Dreadnought, right? Big scary Dreadnought, probably going bye-byes. Yeah, goodbye Dreadnought. They're going to bash with their 4-5 here. No, just... Okay, they're holding up the Reclaimer to go and find something nice. So just attack with a 4-4. Let's go and get ourselves a Phyrexian Dreadnought, as it turns out. And play this. I kind of want the Mycosynth Gardens to make another Dreadnought. But I also want the Urza Saga to start ticking up. Friend's got 1 card in hand. I think we're just going to get ourselves a Dreadnought here. Alrighty. How does 24 power sound to your opponent? What are they going to find here? Something that's going to ruin our day, no doubt. Just a Saga. Okay. So they're probably going to have a Haywire Mite in their deck that they're going to use their Saga to find, and then they can blow up our Torpor Orb. But we have 24 damage, 24 trample damage coming in next turn. So this construct's just a 1-1. It's not so bad. Sacrificing the Cradle for a Dryad Arbor. And they got another Cradle. Natural Order. Sure. What are they going to find here? Progenitus. Pretty good. Crater Hoof doesn't do it. Okay, just gone for a Grist. Bit of a sad one. Alright. So they're getting rid of this one so they can then keep beating for 4. Next turn they get Haywire Mite and blow up the Torpor Orb if that's the thing they need to do. But unfortunately we don't get to play 2 lands on a turn. Otherwise we'd be able to Make another... So would I rather have another Dreadnought, or would I rather have Urza Saga taken away? I think it's just another Dreadnought here, isn't it? Let's attack them. Just make this now while our opponent's got no mana and no land, got no mana and no cards in hand. Alright, so we might be chump blocking this turn depending on what our opponent wants to do. How many creatures in their grave actually? 1, 2... Grist counts as a creature, right? 1, 2, 3, 3. So we might have to chump block this turn. Oh wait, their Grist is on 1 loyalty, but if they find another Grist, are they going to be able to drain us out, sort of thing? Retrofitter's Foundry. That doesn't really deal with our Phyrexian Dreadnoughts very well. What is your 1 card in hand? It's going to have to be pretty good here. Unless you've got like a Glacial Chasm as a land you can find. Alright, we got the concession there. Okay. Grist, I would like to Pithing Needle that. We didn't really see anything for the Haywire Mite to get hold of here. I don't think we need that. The Plows, going to be good. They're fundamentally a creature deck. The Might for the Lights, they have a lot of cheap guys, so these feel like a nice thing we can use. What do I not like here? Saga Lantern is good. Shadowspear is good. Portal Hole's good. Skrelv. I'm looking at you again, Skrelv. I'm sorry, buddy, but I just don't like you. Ethersworn Canonist doesn't feel amazing here, because by the time it gets out, they've probably already played their 1-drops. They can play 1 card a turn relatively well. I don't think we need the Canonists. They're not like a cantrip deck, so I don't think that's where we want to be. And they're not like the elf deck that combos off. They just kind of play good spells and then get you that way. So we need to cut 4 cards. And we'll cut one of our Skrelvs. We can still shoot it for it if we want it. We'll cut one of the Fiddlebenders, because they're going to have a Caracas to find it. And we'll cut a couple of Once Upon a Times. We'll try it like this, I think. They have Urza Sagas, though. But I don't know how many Urza Sagas they have. Do you want these Haywire Mites? I think I'd rather have a Haywire Mite in my deck than a Skrelv, actually. We have a turn 3 Painter kill. I guess we'll keep this. Once Upon a Time. Windswept Teeth. Playing the Windswept Teeth. Cracking the Windswept Teeth. A Bayou. Enter a Dryad Arbor. Sure. There's a Saga here. I think I'm just going to play this Torpor Orb out this turn. It stops some of their shenanigans they could have. Next turn we can Painter or Dreadnought, or if we draw an Ancient Tomb, do both. And then we're sort of threatening our opponent in a multitude of different ways that way. Fatal Pushes and stuff will kill our Dreadnoughts, sadly. 3 mana for Green Sun Zenith for Collect Roof. This means we're on the Dreadnought plan, if that's what they get. Sure. We're on the Dreadnought plan. Glad I used the Lotus Petal when I did. Let's see if they like Dreadnoughts. Force of Vigor. Pitching Fiend Artisan. Sure, that's pretty bad for us. We have a Swords to Plowshares. We can use this if we need it. I'm just going to natural order something big and scary and kill us. A Green Sun Zenith for 3. What is this going to be? Like Knight? No. A Grist. Sure. That's fine. I don't think we need to Swords to Plowshares here. Snuff out is something that could definitely be in our opponent's deck. So I'm inclined to play this guy on black. This will stop some of their little guys from hitting us. They might sacrifice a guy just to kill it, which is annoying, but fine at the end of the day. Yep. Sacrificing an insect token to kill our Painter Servant. I think we're just going to lose straight up because that Force of Vigor. Too strong. Sideboard cards are good these days. So we'll take a bash for 3. It's not a big threat. We do have the Plow if things get a little bit out of hand. I think we just need the Savannah here. We're not really doing anything with our Ancient Tomb. If we get in a really bad spot, we can always play a Dreadnought and plow it ourselves to give ourselves 12 life. That's a horrible play that I don't want to have to do. But I think we're just going to lose this game pretty quick time. No attacks. What are they worried about? Interesting. A Torpor Orb. Let's play a Torpor Orb. Let's play a Dreadnought. Our opponent's got no cards in hand. I think I'm going to copy this Dreadnought now while we can. We have 24 power. What are we going to find here? As a Saga again? Yeah. They're probably going to have something a bit better to deal with it than what they had before. Just going for double as a Saga and using the Cradle to power out tokens. Lair of the Hydra. Alright, that's an interesting one. So I can kill one of our guys here with the Grist minus. But then we're bashing. That's a 7/7. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, that's lethal, isn't it? Right, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Sure. Interesting. Wasn't expecting Lair of the Hydra. Do you want to do anything differently here? I don't think so. Now we can have some sort of protection in for to get around Grist, but I think we just jam. Like the Skrelv and Blacksmith skill are so low impact in this matchup most of the time. What does this hand do? We can kill some guys, that's for sure. I guess we keep this. Probably lead out on as a Saga, or we could lead out on an Ancient Den. I'm going to lead out an Ancient Den and just remove some stuff. And then we can actually play an Urza Saga game and make some constructs with it. Maybe. We'll see. It basically seems like our opponent's deck has got Grist in it, and then the rest of the cards in their deck are kind of not really doing anything to us for the most part. Which is kind of interesting. Let's buy you. There's a Reclaimer. Let's kill it. Got no time for that sort of nonsense. Alright, then we'll play out Saga. Get ourselves a Hushbringer. Next turn we can Portable Hole and make an Urza Saga token. Or March of Otherworldly Light and make a Saga token. And hopefully we can just overload what our opponent's doing. Lair of the Hydra. There it is. Pithing Needle. Sure. Alright, opponent. We're going to Portable Hole that. Attacks. I don't have Force of Vigor this time, so I suppose it was the Force of Vigor that did us last time, actually, wasn't it? Cracking off their variant catacombs. What are we going to see here? Grist. Green Sun Zenith 4-2. Make this now. It's probably going to be a Collector Reef, but it's not really going to do very much with the way that we're approaching this game. Yep, there it is. It does shut off our Ancient Den, I suppose. That's not nothing. Just keep making guys. Snuff out on our Hushbringer. Interesting. I'm going to get Pithing Needle and name Grist. I'll play this out. Go attacks. Bosh. We have an emergency March of Otherworldly Light if we need it, because we can pitch the Fiddlebender and get something for X's2. But we can just untap and then just pay mana for it if we want to. And that'll unlock our Ancient Dens. So if our opponent doesn't deploy a creature this turn, we have them. Well, they could have a removal spell, I suppose, but once upon a time, that's a bit of a desperation play. Snow-covered forest. That's not really the one, is it? An Elvish Reclaimer. A Dryad Arbor. Alright. What are we going to draw here? A Hushbringer. What does that do here? Let's have a think. Let's play out this. We want to kill their things. I think we have to just March for the Worldly Light this Collector Reef here. So this guy goes away. We force them to chump block with both of their creatures. Right, I suppose they have to chump block with one, don't they? What are we talking about? And then, are we playing the Hushbringer or are we playing the Oswald Fiddlebender? Tough choice, that one. I don't want to get like natural ordered out of the game in some weird way, so I think that's the best way of handling that situation. All right, we got the concession there. So we ended with a 3-2 there. Our opponent's deck in the last one. I am not a fan of like the mid-range green-black. They call it elves, but it's not really elves. It's kind of a mid-range deck that has a bunch of mana dorks and then like a few nice silver bullets into natural order. It's kind of like black-green Maverick with natural order instead of like knights and things. It's not for me. Like I think like the second game where they had the Force of Vigor, we very nearly beat them anyway. When they had like their most powerful sideboard card and like double Stone Rained us on turn 1 or whatever it was. They blew up 2 of our I can't remember what permanents they were. It was an Urza Saga and something else. But yeah, so that matchup felt right. But the matchups where your opponents had a decent amount of ways of blowing your things up felt really bad, right? So the Planeswalker deck where all their Planeswalkers were jamming our stuff up, blowing our stuff up, that felt miserable. And then the sort of blue-white Stoneblade deck that could just answer the key pieces and then just beat us down eventually, that felt pretty horrible too. Let's talk about the deck though. So I mentioned this a few times already in the course of this league. This deck is 2 different decks jammed together, right? So we have Painter Grindstone combo, we have Phyrexian Dreadnought, Torpor Orb, Hushbringer combo. And we're kind of trying to stitch them together with Oswald and Urza Saga. Oswald, Never really did anything in this league. Now, I'm a big fan of Oswald. If you watch the channel, you know I play Mono White Painter frequently. Not this particular build, obviously, but I play Mono White Painter quite frequently. I play like a Grindstone Forge build. Anyway, and Oswald's pretty good in that one, but this game, this deck feels like it's got all of these things in it, right? We're not necessarily trying to go for the long grindy game. Now, I understand it's nice to have it as an option. I think as a 4 of, maybe slightly too many, and you could probably trim one and get a Pithing Needle main deck, which is something I felt I wanted repeatedly. Skrelv is not a card that I particularly like. I bought a nice foil one for my deck. I played it a few times and it just got boarded out a lot and never really felt like where I wanted to be. I'm not sure that Skrelv is where I want to be honest. I understand, though, with a Phyrexian Dreadnought, you've got one thing you just need to protect. So I can understand the appeal there. But it feels like we need more of this effect to make it worthwhile. I don't think 2 Skrelv is enough. So if you wanted to, maybe you cut an Oswald for a Skrelv. But the question is running Skrelv good enough when we could run Mother of Runes? Now, I understand you can fetch a Skrelv with Oswald Fiddlebender. But how often would I want to fetch a Skrelv out of our deck? Like, what is the situation where I'm thinking, oh, this Skrelv is really going to help my 12/12 Trampler cut through that's not really going through? Like, I guess the only thing where maybe you want to do that is to have a Cauldron. But if they have a Cauldron, you get the Haywire Mite and kill it instead. So I'm not sure why this is here. We could have 3 Mother of Runes in the deck and just have a thing that is much better post-Cyborg game because it doesn't get cleaned up by Meltdown, Energy Flux, Force of Vigor, that sort of stuff. And it can protect our guys. Yes, it makes our constructs 1 smaller. But I think having a guy that's just better post-sideboard, and obviously Mother of Runes can protect itself, which is huge. Whereas Skrelv doesn't really do that. And Skrelv costs you life to do, or mana, whereas Mother of Runes does it for free. I want this card to be better than it is, to be honest, but I'm not sure. I'm not convinced by it. So that's kind of where I would think about making some little changes to this deck. But the thing with this deck is, if your opponent can pick apart like the key pieces you need, then your deck doesn't do anything because we're not playing good cards. We're playing cards that in combinations do really good stuff. And if your opponent can stop you ever assembling those combinations, it's very difficult. And we're not a deck that's dedicated to either plan necessarily. So it's not like we're like a mono red painter deck where it's got so many ways of finding Painter, so many ways of finding Grindstone. It's so reliable at doing its thing that, oh, your opponent's blown up your Grindstone. Well, I'm just going to go get another one. Cool, that's fine. We don't really have anything like that here. Now, Oswald can kind of help, but obviously, I've only played 1 league with this deck, right? I have played a previous build of this that didn't feel as good as this, but this one did feel like it was in the right direction a bit more than the previous build I played a while back. But in the league that I've just played, I didn't activate Oswald Fiddlebender at any point. So that's kind of an interesting thought there. So maybe that should be... I don't know, it's hard though, because that's the glue that you're supposed to use to kind of fit things together. But I can't help thinking that maybe... Is Ingenious Smith going to be okay in that slot just to find you your other pieces without being exposed to removal? Because sometimes we're not going to have that many creatures that require removal, right? If we're trying to get our Dreadnought up and running, we're not going to get it. We're not going to just put it into play. So their opponent's going to have removal, and they're going to use it on Oswald, and then we're not going to have the thing that lets us put the Dreadnought in. And I guess they might use some removal on some Urza Sagas and stuff. I don't know. It feels like you have to thread the needle a little bit with your draws to make either plan work. Now, we definitely had that in some of the games we had today, but then we did also just kind of get a bit bodied. Like in that last round, we won because Urza Saga is a good Magic the Gathering card. That's basically what happened. Urza Saga is better than... Like Urza Saga with some removal and stuff backing it up. If they can't kill your Saga, that's often good enough, to be honest, in some matchups. Especially if you're against sort of like a mid-range Golgari deck like that. And you've already shut off their sort of big plays, perhaps, with Natural Order. Although I'm not sure if we saw the Natural Order from them, actually. But anyway, that's... Oh no, I think we saw them Natural Order into a Grist once, right? But aside from that, I think it was sometimes a little tricky to get the Haywire Mite. So we had that game where we were kind of locked under our own mana because we had to keep our Mycosynth Gardens up. So we couldn't deploy anything else to the board because we'd get hit by the Cauldron if we did. But then they just had end of turn threats. So we were just losing entire turns where our opponent is deploying threats. Now, we could have just played out and then tried to answer the Cauldra after the fact, and maybe we should have just held the Mite in hand until the turn we wanted to use it. Maybe that would have been a safer play. I would probably play that game differently to see how it panned out, but I've not really played a lot of this particular deck, and I haven't really got to play much of Haywire Mite yet, which is a shame because I think it's a really cool design card. I really like it. Sideboard wise, felt like we had a reasonable selection of tools. Again, Pithing Needle was something that I really like in the main deck. Blacksmith skill is another interesting one. I like Blacksmith skill more than Skrelv generally because it defends against Wastelands. And like we had that game against the mono-white deck, the blue-white deck where they had the Wasteland and we blocked it with the Blacksmith skill, and that basically won us the game because, again, as a Saga, is a very powerful magic card. Yeah, I'm not really sure what I would change with the sideboard. The Surgical Extraction feels fine as a piece of graveyard hate, but we could have... I guess our deck isn't really good with Grafdigger's Cage, whereas like the Painter decks I normally play that have Urza Saga are pretty good with Grafdigger's Cage because you're not getting any creatures off your Saga, whereas we want to get creatures off our Saga via the, to make the Dreadnought, so I think it's right not to have that. Yeah, I don't really know if there's anything else to say about this one. Maybe Deafening Silence would be better over the Canonist, because when you want that effect, you want it as soon as possible usually. Now, having 4 of that effect in your deck is fine, but just having 2 that also 2 that aren't artifacts is sometimes quite good if your opponent has access to things like Pulverize, which they're definitely going to bring in against you, like the Storm matchups. I think Deafening Silence would be an upgrade over the Canonist. Now, obviously, Canonist is going to be slightly better against the cantrippy decks because it can beat down, but I don't think it's the be-all and end-all in that matchup really anyway. But against the matchups where it really counts to stop them playing multiple spells, I think having the Deafening Silence is better. Now, that being said, Canonist is much better against Elves than Deafening Silence. So there is that slight trade-off. It depends what we're trying to answer with it. Yeah, I think that's about it. This deck is not really for me personally, I wouldn't say. I play a lot of mono-white Painter, but the build I like to play has a lot of good cards in it, right? I'm not trying to piece... Like, I have the A+B plan of Grindstone, Painter Servant, right? But then everything else in my deck is just good cards. So I run a build that has Stoneforge Mystic, which is just a good card that on its own does its thing. It runs Staff the Storyteller, which is a very good card, draws you cards, gets you more of your good cards. You know, I prefer that sort of approach. I don't like jamming too many A+B combos in the same thing. I think you either want an A+B combo and lots of ways to find it, like a really dedicated approach like I have with Black-Green Depths. I play Black-Green Turbo Depths quite a lot on the channel, and I like to have... So that deck is entirely dedicated to doing the one thing reliably. Or you can have a deck that's got this A+B combo built into it, but then it surrounds it with a bunch of other good stuff your opponent has to respect. So your opponent's going to spend all their removal on your Stoneforges and stuff like this. Like they're going to do stuff on their own that are quite often 2-for-1s. Like if you're getting a Batterskull with your Stoneforge, they kill a Stoneforge, you still got a Batterskull, which is a reasonable threat to deploy. And obviously Staff as Storyteller can really snowball out of control, things like this. So that's kind of how I like to approach these sorts of decks. This is kind of 2 decks kind of mushed together. It feels like we have a lot of vulnerabilities. That said, the ceiling of what you can do is quite good. You can just go, okay, we're just going to make a load of Dreadnoughts straight away. Can you beat that? All right, maybe we're going to draw the other half of our deck and win that way. So if things line up, I think it's good. But this deck has got a little bit too much variance for me, especially when we're not a blue deck, so we can't fix that. Like Oswald's trying to do some work here, but I don't think he's the right tool for the job to make sure that we can get all the pieces we need. Maybe something like a Khan, weirdly, but then you'd have to change up your whole sideboard and stuff. But maybe Khan would be an interesting one, because that's a card that's very good on its own and can win the game. Not that I particularly like the card in general. I'm not a big fan of that design, but I think it is quite a powerful card, and we do have some fast mana, so maybe that's where we could look at. But we do only have the 3 Ancient Tombs. We're not like a heavy soul land deck. We're not really trying to leverage these things as much as we could if we had more Ancient Tombs and cities and things. Yeah, I think we're done for this one. I think you got to be quite brave to play this one, because you are a little bit at the mercy. Like obviously Once Upon a Time is trying to help you fix your draws a little bit. You know, it can find Hushbringer, or it can find Dreadnought, or it can find Painter. We can't find the Grindstone, but the Grindstone's the easiest thing to find because we got 2 copies plus the Urza Sagas. I think this deck's just a little too inconsistent. I think if you played it enough times, you could probably 5-0 league with it. I think the power level is there, but the variance is a little bit too wild, and I think it's a little bit too easy to pick apart for a deck that I would want to play for me. But I can see the attraction because, you know, Phyrexian Dreadnought is a big boy. Now, there's a lot of things in the format that kill it these days, Prismatic Ending being chief among them, but it does end a game pretty quickly, and Trample is no joke. So I can certainly see the attraction even if it's not for me. Alright, hope you enjoyed today's one. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, join the Discord, say hello, that sort of stuff. Yeah, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.